Are there any albums that you believe are perfect?
Rodeo, Igor, and To Pimp a Butterfly come to mind.
All right. Welcome to Music Over Matter. One conversation that we were having off camera that we decided to have on camera now, and because we think it's a good discussion,
Yep.
is whether or not perfect albums actually even exist. Because music is heavily subjective. Everyone can agree on that. But then sometimes people will say that albums are perfect, but perfect is an objective statement. So what does perfect even mean? Like, why do you think that Igor, To Pimp a Butterfly are perfect?
To me, there's the concept perfect. There's no skips on it at all. You can listen front to back.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing though, right?
Yeah.
Is like no skips to you.
Yeah.
So is that album even perfect if someone wants to skip, say, King Kunta? I don't know. But like, if someone wanted to skip that, it's no longer a perfect album, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really interesting conversation because that brings up the whole thing that things could be perfect to you. For me, for example, House of Balloons, I will argue this to the grave, is an objectively perfect album. Okay?
Yeah.
You cannot say there are any skips on that album. You can't say there's anything wrong with any tracks on it or mixtape, whatever you want to call it, right? But then I would also consider, say, Kissland perfect. Except Live 4. That song sucks. But to me, this album is perfect. But that doesn't mean it actually is.
For example, a subjective thing. For example, Rodeo. Some people are going to skip Piss on Your Grave for some reason.
Yeah.
Even though I absolutely love that song, that one skip that for some people will not make Rodeo a perfect album for them.
Yeah, but I also, skips aren't the only thing that don't make an album perfect, right? Because like if you were to look objectively, what makes a perfect album, the concept, even though that's subjective, but say like there also has to be no issues with beats, no issues with mixing. Like if you're looking at it from a technical level,
That's true.
which I think is a stupid way to look at music.
Yeah.
Like it should be subjective. Because that just brings up the whole thing like is there even a perfect album at all?
It matters on the person if
Yeah.
the album is perfect or not. For example, I mean, we listen to the same type of music, but if someone comes up to me and says, "This is a perfect album," I go and listen to it for the first time. Yo, that was kind of mid, no cap.
Yeah.
I'm
Jesus Christ.
I don't have the same relationship or like same memories that I have with that album.
Okay. But here's another question. Is there some albums then that are objectively not perfect? Because basically the point we're making right now is that music is all subjective. Perfect albums don't actually exist. It is all your perception of it.
Yeah.
But are there albums that you would consider, off the top of your head, objectively not perfect?
Not perfect.
Yeah.
Whole lot of red.
Yeah. No, you know what I mean? Like, there's some albums that, like, if someone came up to you and said, like,
Yeah.
this album is perfect, it's
like,
unanimously no.
No.
Like, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. I think that's an interesting thing, too, because then we're basically hypocrites. Because we just said that it is completely subjective.
Yeah. So an album, I mean, a whole lot of red. That was kind of a joke answer, but what would be one that I like that someone or
Not even one that you like. An album that you think is garbage.
I think like if it's hella bloated with tracks, you may think this one song is perfect, and the next song after that is perfect, and the song after that is perfect, but then there's that one song that makes it bad. But then if it's bloated, it's going to have those multiple songs that make it bad. Maybe the runtime is good. Maybe those tracks to you are still good. But it's not a perfect album.
Okay, so for an album to be perfect, you mentioned the concept, no skips, that sort of thing. So that's something that makes an album not perfect then. It's like it bloated.
Yeah, bloating.
Even if the tracks aren't bad necessarily. Because like to me, that is literally Donda.
Yeah. If someone says Donda is a perfect album, they're on something. Donda has extremely good tracks on there, but there's a lot of bloat on there. Okay. Especially Tell the Vision. If you count the part twos,
That's what I was about to say.
yeah, those bloat it even more. That if you're not paying attention, those songs are going to play, which literally just makes it not perfect.
Yeah. I'm not saying Donda is perfect anyways. I was just saying, like, Donda is a perfect example of bloat. Like, the other album that comes to mind when I talk bloat is Culture 2 by Migos.
Okay.
That's a long time ago, but I remember Culture 2 was kind of the first time when people were like, holy crap, people are bloating albums for streams.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the purpose that's happening. Yeah, so it's just, there's a lot of bloat. Mm-hmm. That being said, let's go into, so there's a purpose to this video, let's go into a list of things that an album needs to be perfect. Not saying that every album that has these things are perfect, but an album that is considered perfect needs to have these things.
Yeah.
So what have you said? Concept?
Yeah, it needs to have a good concept. I mean, not necessarily, I don't think. I think an album can just have absolute bangers.
I would say it needs to have a purpose. Like, if the purpose, if it fits its purpose.
Yeah.
If the purpose of the album was full bangers.
Yeah.
If it has a concept, perfect.
Yeah. Like, Rodeo doesn't fully have a concept to it. The songs have a concept, but it doesn't go like a whole story or something like that.
Yeah. I don't think, the concept isn't a good word. It's purpose. Even though that's a little bit of a branch there. I think albums that have a concept are more likely to be considered perfect.
Me too.
Because it took a lot more work into doing it.
Yeah.
So what else do you say? I would say good production.
Uh-huh.
Like heavy good production. Not in the sense that it's it just needs to sound good. Yeah. Like, even if it's experimental albums could have good production, even if it's completely new. Purpose, good sound, production, and vocals. We'll throw that in there.
Yeah. Like,
all together. And like a flow to the album, even if it is all bangers. Like, flow ones, if it's not like super jarring.
Yeah, you want to sit down and listen. When you hear one song on that album, it makes you want to go and listen to the whole thing. Yeah. Is how I'm feeling for a perfect album sometimes.
Okay, I see that. Let's go over a couple things that make an album not perfect.
Okay.
Bloat.
Yeah.
Basically, the opposite of everything that we already said. Opposite of everything we already said. Bloat.
I think another one is the song, the individual songs do not have a purpose. Like, for example, I mean, I like the song now, and I would still consider it perfect back then. Hood Politics on To Pimp a Butterfly is my least favorite on there, and I think it's an okay song. But it still has a purpose on that album.
It doesn't take away from the album.
It does not take away from the album.
Yeah.
Songs that are just there to fill and do not have a purpose to, even if it's a banger album, but it like repeats the same thing that it did before. Maybe it sounds exactly like the song before it. Yeah. Stuff like that.
Repetition, uselessness.
Yeah.
I think actually the better album that we should be really looking at is IGOR.
Okay.
Because I don't think IGOR even has an okay song.
There isn't. Every single song
is good, serves a purpose, has the best Tyler song of all time on it. So I think IGOR, Gone Gone, thank you.
Okay.
So I think IGOR is actually the perfect album.
Okay.
So, but IGOR matches all those points that we talked about. Not bloated, has purpose, has a concept, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So do perfect albums exist?
Yes.
Maybe. Yeah. Yes, but no. What a fantastic discussion that we couldn't think of an answer to that. Let us know what you think in the comments. Is there perfect albums? And what albums would you consider perfect even if they're not widely suggested as that? For example, for me, like I mentioned, Kissland, right?
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments what you think and whether or not perfect albums exist.